Okay, well, you know, as usual, I got it wrong. Because, you know, I really don't know what I'm doing, and I've never done this before, so here's what happened. I wish I'd have filmed this, but I didn't. You'll see this spring. This is the lightweight spring that I really wanted to use because I thought, well, you know, the back end of this car is going to weigh a lot less than the Cougar, and well, once I put the spring perches here in and put the springs in it, you know, having the original springs would be kind of rough. You know, really hard to get any suspension out of them and be a rough ride. So I put these springs in. First thing that happened when I let this down, it just went right to the ground. Yep, those springs didn't even hardly slow it down. So I put the original ones on the perches, and now I got a little bit of spring. You saw when I set it down that it's setting a little low, a couple inches too low, and I haven't even got a body on this thing yet. So I'm gonna have to add space between this plate and the spring, like a lift kit, figure out how much I need, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure from this plate to the ground, and then I'm gonna pick it up to where I want it, plus 3 inches, so that the weight of the body will come down on it and bring it pretty close to where I want it. And yeah, let's see how that works. So right now, resting on the floor, I mean on the springs, I am at 21 3/4 inches. All right, so let's write 21 3/4 down. Okay, now there's a dynamic going on here. I see the geometry, but I don't know the geometry. It's got to go from this pivot point here and this pivot point here, and we're pushing in the middle. So this spring is going to lift less to move this more. So to change the height, instead of measuring from this plate to the floor, I need to go from this plate to the spring perch on the suspension to see how much difference there is there. So let's give it a shot. I have exactly 11 inches right now resting on the springs. So let's write that down. 11 inches. All right, let's pick this up to where I want it, and we'll measure that. Now we have 11 1/2. So 1/2 inch difference is where I want it to end up. 11 1/2. Now let's bring the frame up 3 inches. Right now, the frame is at 23. And we've picked it up to 23. See, that's quite a difference. We went up 1/2 inch there, and we've gone up several inches here. So we're at 23 where we want it. So I want to bring this to 26. Okay. That's where I want it to be resting without the body or people in it. Right there. 26 inches. So what does that make our final measurement? That makes our final measurement here 12 1/2. So I have to go from 11 to 12 1/2. So I need 1.5 inches added in these springs. I'm going to stick in 2 and see what happens. That's what I think. In order to come up from 21 3/4 all the way up to 26 inches, I needed 1.5 inches. Now I know that these springs have a variable rate of compression, so I'm going to put some 2-inch blocks in order to kind of make up for the variable squishiness of the springs. And let's see where 2 inches puts us. Should be pretty stinking close, because I know I'm going to need some room to compress the spring some with putting a body on the back of this, and then putting me and somebody else about my size in the seats. It's going to set her down a little bit, so let's go with 2 inches. Okay, so I have added 2 inches of oak right there between the perches and the springs. Did it on both sides, right like that. And that brought my ride height up to 25 1/2. That's pretty close. I think it's 2 inches. I'm going to add 2 inches to that of metal, and I'm going to have to figure a way keep that spring from getting goofy on me when I put the pressure under it. So I got to put some thought into that. Maybe if you have an idea, you can come up and tell me one, make a suggestion. But I have to keep this spring 2 inches away from that plate and keep it from going any direction, sideways or forward or backwards or whatever. It's got to stay centered under that. And then we should get the right height we need. At least that's my hope. Now I think I know what I did wrong in my calculations. You can see up here where I moved the front axle forward 18 inches. Well, that put the entire weight of the engine and transmission behind the front axle. Originally the engine was centered over the front axle. So that shifts a lot of weight to the back. Gives you better handling, no question about that. Makes it closer to 50-50, but and then there's the weight of this rear end, which is 200-300 pounds in itself. So yeah, that's probably where I goofed up on my spring rate calculations. But looks like a 2-inch spacer and some way to keep it from taking off, and we should be fine because, I mean, let's give it some room here, and we've got well, it don't take much to move it, does it? Well, we got plenty soft springs, and if I have to, I can add some springs to the shock absorbers. So we'll go from there. And do not worry, I am putting gussets in here on top of this plate. That's just not going to be a plate sticking out in space. I'm going to have 3 gussets. I'm going to have one that comes to here, one that comes to here, and one that comes to over here. And they're all going to go back to this 2-inch square tubing, which has this rectangular tubing keeping it from twisting, and it also has these bolts holding it through this brace to keep it from twisting. So it shouldn't go anywhere. I'm thinking we're okay once I put the gussets on there.